And I believe I am back. OBS says I'm going. I see myself in Twitch. RPG Maker is open. Okay, so RPG Maker XP is the version I am using. It is fairly old, but I still believe it is a very powerful tool. I have a friend who's trying to make a Pokemon RPG using this, and I mean, it's pretty perfect. It is sprite-based still, so it does have its limitations as usual. But between Enterbrain's two projects, RPG Maker and 2D Fighter, I believe this one's a lot more well fleshed out. So, let's do a quick overview of what we got and what this thing can do. This is a project I started back in my younger days. I think I was like 14, maybe 15 when I found this. Me and my brother had an idea to make an RPG, and this is what I found, and this is what I tried to do. But I mean, he was story writer and director, and then I ended up being music director, programmer, stage designer, coder, and it never took off. He said he would try to learn this, but he never learned it. He never could get his mind around it. I mean, if he had enough time, he probably would have. So anyway, why don't we start a, well, as you can see though, like, there's a lot of things and a lot of sources you can find. This source right here, this is not a default map from RPG Maker. This one I found online somewhere. I don't remember where, but like, it was free and it gave me a world map, so here's a world map. Alright, let's start a new project. Or rather, a blank project. So, new project, we're going to save this on my... Go to desktop, media entertainment. I don't have a folder. Let's create a new folder. RPG, that's ROG, RPG MXP test game. All right. New project. We will save it on that new location that I just made. RPG Maker test game. Folder name, test game, and title, game title. That's perfectly fine. So we'll press OK, and this is what you will see. Is it too late to ask questions about 2D FM? Technically speaking, yes, but I will still answer them. That is perfectly fine. So post it on the Twitch chat and I will answer it as I go. Right now my main focus is RPG Maker, but no, you can totally ask a question. It's perfectly fine. So, in RPG Maker, you will be greeted with this map, and you're probably, the first instinct is probably, oh, what does this do? Well, that's not bad, because half of how I learned this was curiosity and just clicking with random things. The other half was a tutorial video that someone made years ago. Like, I think it's 10 years old at this point. So, on top, you have your basic functions that I'm pretty sure it's like you can just read it and figure out what's going on. So file, new project, open project, close project, save project, compress game data. Those are all pretty self-explanatory. Edit, your standard edit functions, which also support the hotkeys that are natural in Windows. View, it's your layers, so you can do all layers, dim the other layers. I like to dim the layers so I know which layer I'm working on. And plus it's default. Mode, pick your layers. You have 4. Lowest layer, second layer, third layer, and events. I will not be... I guess I'll define them in this video, but I'm not going to be going too far into them. Draw, so when you're laying down tiles. If you do pencil, well, okay, again, I will define it as I go. So, yeah, you got pencil, rectangle, ellipse, flood, and select. Scale, tools. Tools is where you're going to spend most of your time, because this is where you're going to be uploading and finding all your materials. Game, you got playtest, change the title, select RPT in game folder, and your help. I have never once used this help. It is a lot to read, and I did not feel like reading it, so I did not. Okay. So, all these menus up here, the majority of them are here. So, okay, just a quick sidetrack. One of the viewers asked, feels like one of those mailroom letter things where like I get a letter. This person asked, anyway. So, they are asking, is it possible to make homing attacks or teleport moves who goes next to your opponents? Absolutely. In 2DFM, you can do that. It's from, if you watched the stream I just did about variables, I'll upload it to YouTube. It will consist of variables for homing attacks. So if we use Cyrax's missile from Mortal Kombat 3, it's a missile that he shoots out, and it will eventually fly into the opponent after, like, I think 3 seconds. That one will need a variable. And as far as a teleport move, well, it depends on how the teleport move is going to be. Is it going to be a teleport like this guy will always teleport behind the opponent no matter where he is in the location? So if they're on the ground or in the air, they will always appear behind them. That's fairly easy. The easiest way I can think of is when the teleport happens, they disappear, so their sprite is invisible, and they quickly move towards one direction. So the opponent, let's say the opponent's just in front of them for simplicity's sake. They disappear and their sprite is invisible. Their their body becomes an attack box, one that would cover the whole screen, and they will move all the way until it collides with the opponent. It has to be unblockable, and it has to have no unblockable, and I think it's like no condition or something like that. Anyway, the second it collides with the opponent, now you need a second one that will cover the x-axis and move up to find their y-coordinate. Once you find that, you then just have the character appear in front of them or behind them. Simple as that. The second it's so it's like, okay, activate teleport, detect skill, if attack connects, have a attack frame that spans the whole y-axis but is thin, a movement skill that's like a 20 on the x-axis moving to the right. When the attack hits, the detect skill will redirect to teleport part 2, let's say. Now you're going to have a movement stop, so movement with all zeros, then a movement that's going up the y-axis, an attack frame that spans the whole x-axis, and a detect skill when attack hits. So when the attack hits, it will redirect to teleport part 3, and it will have the opponent reappear, or the player reappear, and with what I said, if what I'm thinking is correct, since I don't have it in front of me, they should reappear right in front of the opponent. If you want it behind them, after it finds the X and Y, just have them move behind them. That's probably the simplest way I can think of. And I know it's a lot of information, and it's probably going to be tough on the first try, but that's the general concept. You use the attack boxes as detect boxes instead. So, that being said, you can sort of do the same thing with the homing attack, where the object itself doesn't have an actual attack box, but I know that sounds kind of weird, but you can have it constantly shoot out an attack box trying to find where the opponent is. It's all about trying to find the opponent and where they are, and using the attack boxes as actual detect boxes. The attack boxes do not have to have any kind of damage, and you can use them as a detect box instead. So go off of that. If you need any more questions, I am on the Discord and I will help you if you need any more advice. Just don't be afraid to be active on Discord. That's all I can say. If you're watching this, be active on Discord. Ask your questions. If it's giving you a headache, ask a question. We're not going to spoon feed you, but we'll give you a direction. We're not going to, I mean, yeah, most of us are cynical because of what happened in FMHQ, but we'll answer your questions. We'll help you out. So anyway, back to RPG Maker XP. Oh, I just deleted a square. Let's restore that. So the top menu buttons are, in general, down here. This is all you need. All these, and if you hover your mouse over it, you will see what everything is. So before we get into the tiles, let's look into the menus. So let's start with your database. Defaultly, they will give you these characters as a starting point to kind of get you an idea, give you an idea on how their quote-unquote classes work. So let's start at the top. Name, you can name them whatever you want. It's not going to affect anything. Class, these are dependent on you, but the class, all it does is I lost my train of thought. It dictates what equipment they can equip. Initial level, final level, that's pretty obvious. EXP curve, well, that's pretty obvious too. It takes X amount of XP to get to the next level. So at level 1, it's 25. Level 2, it's 45. If you go to total, it'll add up everything. Not 45, 41, I'm sorry. So at level 1, it takes 25 to get to level 2. At level 2, it'll take 41. And here, it will just give you the total. That's all it is. You can use these sliders to inflate it or deflate it however you want. So if I do it by 50s, I can do it by 10. And the inflation is, as the level gets higher, it's going to inflate a certain amount. Meaning it will be non-linear, so kinda a curve. So I'm going to click cancel to that. You got your character graphic, which, again, there is a bunch of default ones. And they're not bad, to be honest, but they are limited. And Fighter seems to be the only one who has 8. I mean, Warrior has 3, Thief has 4, Hunter has 3. Gunner only has 2. There's only 2 Gunners, apparently. Cleric has 8, Mage, and yada yada. The limitation here is you can only change the hue, and no problem. You can only change the hue here in RPG Maker, and I feel only about like at step 2, that's already pushing it. I would say like 1 click below step 2 is tolerable, because after that the skin starts changing, and then you have like a blue character, and yeah, their skin starts to change. It's not, me personally, I like the human world and I mean, I'm not a big fan of fantasy, but I don't like the whole purple skin humanoid thing. It's just weird to me. But this changes their hue. If you want to go into in-depth color modification, that's a little bit later. So that's the sprite that will appear on the map. This is the default battle system is what's that game called? Earthbound style, except you get a picture. So the enemy is a picture and you're a picture. That's about it. So this is where you would pick said picture. At the moment with the default stuff, if you were to use nothing but the default stuff, you would have to use fighter 1 with fighter 1, because like if I pick fighter 2, which is a from far away it looks like a male with blue long hair, which is actually it's a female, but and then this appears in the battle screen, that's not going to make so much sense. So if you were to use the default stuff, you'd have to match. So the parameters, which I personally I do the default. You got these quick settings here that will change it. But the easiest way to do it is like, if you want to just generate a straight line, you would type in the final value and it will, oops, I did not mean to do that. It will change it accordingly. So anyway, I lied. I am wrong. Yeah, I am totally wrong. I'm sorry. So this is where you would do it. There you go. So here would be at level 1, and then here's level 99. This is where you would generate that curve. So like if I change this to 8,000, the curve changes. If I change this to 100, it changes again. So I personally just used the default. It made things a lot less of a headache. Not to mention, the default values are actually pretty good. It made for a well-balanced game. Like, the strength here is at 67, so at level 1 they're doing like 100 damage, but with how the HP is with the enemies, which we'll talk about in a moment, or not in a moment, but after a while later on, you find out that it's fairly balanced. So even though they're doing like 100, 200 damage, they have like 1000 HP. You can change it, but then you'll have to do your own math and algorithms, and it becomes a headache. So for something that advertises itself that you can do all this without programming, I think it'd be easier if you just use the default values. Now, the last thing on this menu for the actors is their starting equipment. You need to make the items. It's a pain in the ass, but you gotta make the items. If you pick fixed, that means forever in this game they will use that item. So let's say you have someone who doesn't want to use, they can't use a shield. You would go to none and just put fix. They can never use a shield. Simple as that. There's another way to do it, which we will talk about now. In classes, this gives you the ability to name your class, the position they will be. So, like, think, God, I forgot the name of that RPG. But, like, you know, a tank would be in the front, support or a DPS would be in the middle, and a cleric would be in the back. That type of thing. That's what that does. Here, you would have the equipable items. So, first, if we go to actors and we say, hey, this person can't equip a shield. Like this girl, she's a thief. Thieves don't usually have a shield. You would say fix. So when they're actually in-game, they can't actually equip a shield. But beyond that, if you go to their class and you don't click on shield, then they cannot click on a shield. Simple as that. So these are equipable weapons, equipable armors. And then over here, we have elemental efficiency. So we have C, B, A, and F. E, D. So C being average, yada yada. So if you want someone to be efficient versus a certain type or a certain element, efficient in a certain element, this is where you do it. So let's say this guy is good at fire skills, but he sucks at ice skills. You go A to F. It's pretty simple. Same thing down here. They're good against undead, but they suck against snakes. A to F. A and F, I should say. And same thing with state efficiency. How often can they knock out? How often can they stun? How often can they venom? Yada yada. How well they could do it. Skills to learn. Nothing fancy here. You just have at level 1, they can learn this. At level 2, they will learn this. I don't know. There probably is a script out there for it, but if you want to make an RPG where they have a choice to learn certain skills at a certain level. So like at level 9, they have a choice of 2 skills. There's probably a script for that, but you can't do that with the default system. But it's simply edit, right-click, what level will they learn this skill? Level 5, let's say. They will learn heal. Okay, it's there at level 5. They will learn heal. And that goes for all classes. Alright, skills. Again, I use a lot of the skills, default skills, because it was just easier. And again, most of these default skills are enough to carry you through and make a full RPG. So I would use them. Oops. Sorry. So you got your name, your skill. You got a description. Scope. One enemy, all enemies. One ally, all allies. A dead enemy, a dead ally, all dead allies, and the user. Occasion. Always, so meaning they can use this in battle and outside of battle. Only in battle, so used for attack skills. Only from the menu. Rare case, but like, I can't think of any things right now. And never is... I don't know why you would actually do that, really. Why that's an option, but you have an option to... They can never use this skill, but yeah, you have it. So here you would pick the casting animation, which again, they have a lot of nice default ones. Target animation, again, lots of default ones. You can create your own. The sound effect, you can preview your sound effect, just press play. You can change its volume, you can change its pitch. So, pretty cool. Now you can change the SP cost, you can change the power, attacks, all that. This is currently heal, so let's go to attack one, fire. Here you go, you can see that it has an attack rate, and here in heal, intelligence. Yeah, this is determined by intelligence. Sorry, it's been a while. Depending on their intelligence, it will modify it and actually do a heal or a certain amount of heal or a certain damage. So again, I used all the defaults. If you're going to do an elemental one, make sure you tick off the element. That's what this column is. If it's good, if there's a skill where that's strong against a certain type. So you got undead, snake, aquatic, make sure to click it. There is a skill, I believe it's like bird killer or something. It's a default skill. Here it is, bird killer. Versus bird is checked off because it does extra damage. There was another one like paralyze arrow. Right here, it can paralyze. That's what these states are. Items. There's nothing else I can say. You can change the maximum amount of items. Right now it's defaultly to 32. If I set it to 33, I can click this and add a new item. So, same exact thing as the skills menu. You got the scope, the occasion, user animation, yada yada. Weapons. Very similar to the skills and items. You can name your weapon. You can give it an icon. Give it a description. Attack animation. Target animation. The price if it was to sell. The attack. Defense. Strength, the modifier, dex modifier, agility modifier, intelligence modifier. If it has an element. And states. Can it knock down? Can it stun? What are the chances? Is it efficient? Yada yada. Armor, same deal as weapons. You can change the maximum right here. Do the same exact thing. You can put a description, rename it, add the icon, elemental, defense, stat modifiers. Enemies. So this is similar to your actors page, it's just enemies. So your enemies also have all these default pictures. I got real tired of the default pictures real fast, so I kind of did a lot of research to find what I found for my game, which is a standard side view battle system, and it requires special battle graphics. But anyway, you rename your enemy, and you can rename your enemy here or name them, change their battle graphic, give them HP, SP, strength, their stats. This one's numeric because they don't level up. You need to keep this in mind when you create your RPG. So like, they're assuming when you make these characters that they're going to stay in one place this whole time. So this ghost that only has 2 XP. I think I'm about to sneeze, excuse me. And I did indeed sneeze. So, if you have this ghost who only gives 2 XP and 16 gold, it is clear that this is a level 1 monster. So, or a low dungeon monster. They're assuming that you're not going to put this monster at endgame. They're going to assume you put this monster at endgame because she has 309 EXP, 382 gold. And looks like some angel with guitar. I don't know. Anyway, so... Oh, and she has a name. This guy has a name too. So anywho, yeah. They expect you to put these guys early on. And you just build up and eventually get to these guys. Huh. He has a violin. So, same deal, like I said, elemental efficiency, stat efficiency. Make sure you give them an attack. So you can do edit. And give them an attack, at the very least. Because if you don't, they're just going to stand there and, do so. So, in this menu, you have certain options. What this can do is, let's say, it allows them to do certain things when certain conditions are met. So, turn is if it's this turn. Actually, I don't remember what turn does. I'm sorry. And that is my alarm. I'm sorry, I don't remember what turn does, so I'll get back to that. But HP is fairly obvious. If they are 50% below HP, you can tell them do heal. If our opponent is level 20 or above, switch. Switch is a little more complicated. It switches the monster and all that, so we're not going to do that yet, and you got to fill out a different menu. And the rating is how often they would do it as well. So, moving on to the next menu. This is where you would set the actual troops. So, you can have... The way they did it is 2 and 3. It's... They don't have a single, I don't know why. So you can rename the group. You add whatever monsters you want. And if you actually click here, you can move them around wherever you want. Which is fairly neat. I can add, I think, up to 3 only? Yeah, up to 3. So, oh no. Yeah, that would be someone's worst nightmare. I added 4, 5, 6, 7 ghosts. Oh, wow, I can add up to 8. I guess it's unlimited. Oh no, 8 is the maximum. It's grayed out. So you can add up to 8 monsters. You can auto-name it. All that auto-name is going to do is take the monsters and then, if there's multiple of them, multiply it by that number. Now, the background is just a picture. You would pick the default ones. They're very beautiful, but again, if you were to use your own custom system, these wouldn't really help you much. Battle test, you can test the battle. So down here is the event page. I'm not going to cover this because this is when you're actually using RPG Maker. It's going to take a headache. It's going to be a headache. Alright, so here's where you add your states. these are the states that I was talking about earlier that the skills and items all can do. These are fairly generic, and I think defaultly they give you all the ones that you need, really. So you can name it. Over here in this box, you can... excuse me. Over here in this box, you can put in some extra options. So can't evade, slip damage, regard as HP 0, yada yada. Give it an animation if you want. Can't move is the restriction if it needs a restriction. Like paralyze, I'm pretty sure it's can't move. Yep. Rating, the hit rate, the HP, all these things you can change. Again, just general overview. I know it's a lot that I have to cover anyway. So the release conditions is after, yes, at the end of the battle, or maybe they're paralyzed and they will remain paralyzed until you give them an anti-paralysis item, like in Phantasy Star Online 2. Or not Phantasy Star Online 2, original Phantasy Star Online on the GameCube and Dreamcast. If you get paralyzed in that game, either you return to town or you have the anti-paralysis item. Either way, it's never going away. Hated that. Or you can do it after 2 turns in the fight. There's a 25% chance it'll go away. So, those are the states. Animations. This is where you can add your own animations and get creative. So, I never made my own animation. I am not a sprite artist. I can't do any of this, so I personally used all the default stuff. There's a lot of good ones here. Like, this one's really cool. So, I think this is the one? Yeah, that's just awesome. Like, some of these animations are just really good. So, there's no harm in using the default ones. But, this is where you would add your own animations. You would change the maximum, and over here, these numbers, these are the frames that you would do it. Okay, this is just an example battler. This doesn't mean anything. You don't need to change that. You can change its position. You can change how many frames there are. So in this case, this one's 16. You can change the animation, or I'm sorry, this is where you pick your animation graphic. And this is where you name it. This is where you add the sound effects. And that's all I can say about animations. I haven't used it much, but you can use your own animations. Alright, so tile sets. This is where a lot of people would go like, man, this tile set sucks, I want to use something else, and then they would explore this and go, okay, so how do I change it? We'll get to that in a moment. So, again, you can add your own graphics. I'll show you where to do that later. But a circle means you can walk through it. An X means you cannot walk through it. Simple as that. That's all you have. Circle, X. Oh, there's a square. I forgot what the square means. I forgot what the square means. If I remember, I'll tell you. Anyway. So, you can add... these are the auto tiles that come defaultly with the game. Again, they're good. I highly recommend using them. And it gets you started. And if you're in this field, you can pick the background for the battle. So there's a forest. So, as I said, the circle means you can pass through, and the X means you cannot pass through. So we got passage, that's where we are. In 4 direction, you could show where they can pass through. So if they were standing next to that sprite, they can come in from the top, the right, the left, or the bottom. If you disable one of them so they can only come in from the bottom of the sprite, then you would go like that, so only the down arrow is accessed. Priority is the height. So 0 priority means the player is over it. Priority 2, 3, 4, etc. just means it's higher. So if you were to put these two in the same layer, priority a priority 5 would technically stand over a priority 2. Push flag I haven't used much, so I wouldn't use it. You don't need it really. Same thing with counter flag. Terrain tag I used it once. I gotta remember. I'm sorry. Alright, so common events, this is where you would do your events for your game. We're not going to cover this because it's going to take a while. But you can do insert, and then you get all your events here. And then finally system, you can do your initial, excuse me, your initial party, which traditionally you usually start out with 1, but there are some games where you start out with 2 or whatever. Call your currency, your HP, your SP, your stats. You can rename them here. You can pick your menu skin, which they only have 1. It looks fairly generic Final Fantasy. Your title graphic, they only have 1. It's pretty. I used it for the longest time. Game over screen. That is a very menacing game over screen, so I kept it. And etc, etc. These are the transitions for when you go into battle. That's all. Your title BGM. I had this one on for a long time. It was very good. Battle BGM you can pick. And etc, etc. These are just all things that you can easily just mess with and pick around. Alright. That was one menu. Let's go to the next one. So this is where you would upload your own graphics. And it's fairly straightforward. If you have an animation, attack animation, that you want to do, you would just press import, find it. Let's just go into here, Duty Fighter. I'm sorry. Oh, I unplugged it. Okay, so we're gonna need to go to this one. RPG Maker. Bright. Common. Active status. No. Where did I put sources? No. I really forgot where I put my sprites. Where did I put my stuff? Oh, here we go. Animations. Duh. So here you can see that I exported a bunch of animations. But you can re-import them as long as it's a PNG, a JPEG, and or a BMP. And same thing with sounds. You can import your own music. So this is where you do it. Import, and if you like something in here, or you want to modify it, you can export it. So the next menu is the script editor. You will probably never touch this because it is, well, it's coding. If you know nothing of coding, you're probably going to break the game. So you don't want to go over here and just go, I want to delete all this. You're going to break your game. So I wouldn't touch the script. Don't touch the script. And now we have sound test where you can just test out the sounds that you've uploaded or whatever, and then playtest. So those are all the menus. And just by going through all the menus, that took me about 30 minutes. That is a lot. All right. So now let's go here and let's explore the map that they defaultly gave us. We can name it. We can pick the type of tile set. We can set the width. We can change the BGM. We can change the background sound, which is like if you want like a wind, a rain, or whatever. And we can pick what there we go. Pick what troops, or I'm sorry, what enemies will appear. They just call them troops, I'm sorry. And the average step amount that it will take to actually activate an encounter. So now that we're at this point, let's talk a little bit about the layering system. The way that it made sense for me was anything that you walk on will be on layer 1. Anything that's going to hang over the player, but they can still collide, will be layer 2. And anything that is above the player, like something that's flying, is layer 3. So layer 1 would be any type of floor. Layer 2, would be this tree. And then layer 3, well, there's nothing really here that I would put in layer 3, to be honest. But if you put a tree on layer 1, it's going to look like that. So don't do that. Now, the beautiful thing about RPG Maker and their sprites is they also have these auto sprites. So like that's like a little pothole, but if now I can demonstrate the no, let's make it a ellipse. If I were to click and drag, it will auto fill for me. Just like that. And now I have a lake. Rectangle does the same thing. And now I have a hole. Actually, that's a good point. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to do that on layer 2. And now it looks like the ground is falling, like there's a little step down. And if I take this one, now it looks like there's a little step up. So let's make all the grass look pale. So I'm going to use the flood fill, and just as you expect, it fills everything. So everything that's alike, just like Windows Paint. Now we got like a dead grass look type of thing. And that's basically all you need. Just make sure that the layers make sense. Layer 1 is what the player walks on. Layer 2 is anything that can collide with the player and is is essentially the same plane as the player. They stand on the same plane as the player. And layer 3 is anything that has to be above the player. So that's tile sets in a nutshell. Now, where most people would probably give up is the event system. There's a lot of things that happen here in this tiny little menu. So, again, I hardly use Switch and I don't remember, so variable is similar to what we talked about in 2DFM, where a certain variable can activate this, and if it's above, it will activate. And I need to remember what switch is. I will remember it for next time. You can pick what the graphic of the event is, and events are actually also NPCs. So, let's say if we make an NPC, that guy, the old guy. He has a move animation. He is not direction fixed. Direction fix is whatever direction you pick here, he will always face that direction no matter where he's going. Through means you can walk through him. Always on top is his sprite always remains on top. So, his fix, if he has a movement, you can do random, where he will just move randomly. Approach is he will constantly try to approach the player. And custom is you make a custom move route for him. So I can make him move down twice, then move left once, then move right, then move up, and then it will constantly loop that. So oh, there it is, repeat action. Ignore if can't move. If he runs into a wall, then he'll stop moving. Simple as that. And you can have him jump one step forward, one step back. You can have him wait for a certain amount of frames. Turn, where he will literally just turn direction instead of stepping. Turn 90 degrees to the left, turn 90 degrees to the right, turn 180 degrees, which you could have just, like, if they're facing up, then have them turn down. I don't know why they did that, but hey, they did that. Script, they could change the script. yada yada. Move animation on if you want to stop, move animation off, stop animation on, stop animation off. Now, the trigger, action button means once the player is touching it, they have to press a button to activate the event. So, if they want to talk to the person, make sure you're touching the player, touching the event, and have them press. Then you can add a dialogue here. Insert. Oh, right, that's going to take a while. I'll get to that. The next trigger is player touch. So, if this is an enemy that is visible in the map, use player touch, so the second the player touches it, it will activate a battle. Event touch is same thing, essentially, but if the event is touching it. Auto run, it will automatically play the second the player is present. Parallel process, it will play alongside of another event. So you could have two events playing at the same time. That's cool. It hardly happens, but it's a nice tool to have. So, like I said, if this is a talking thing, you want it on action button, I gave it a custom move route. So let's go with insert. And you can see all these event commands that you can do. Show text is what we would do if we want to make it a talk thing. Show choices is like, do you wish to go to the next level? Yes or no. Input number, so like combination safes and stuff like that. Change text options. So like you could position the text box somewhere in the middle, at the bottom. Show the window, hide the window. Button input, it will only activate for a certain button input. Wait, comment. All of these things are self-explanatory. You just need to take the time to actually read it. So, you won't use all of these. You don't have to. You don't have to, you know. But, oops. Didn't mean to do that. Delete. For this case, we'll just say show text, and we're just going to say, hello, world, and press OK. And we'll call it that. And we'll move him over here. So if we do a quick play test, yes, play test. Enter? Yeah. I go up to him. That is not the right button. There we go. C. Hello, world. So that's how that works. I also don't know why he's not moving. Oh, that's why. Let's do that. Yes. No, he's still not moving. Interesting. Did I already forget how? Oh, I didn't save it. That's why. Move down, move left, move right, move up. Make him walk slow. Like NPC type of slow. That's kind of fast for an NPC, but... Oh, now he's gonna run into a wall. I didn't loop him properly. So, that's basically how you do that. So let's delete him. We don't need him anymore. You can add a new map by clicking this folder and just say add new map. Rename the map. And then pick whatever you want. I'm going to pick woods just because it's there. Press OK. And you could always rename it. So like obviously if it's a map for a town, you don't add encounters. But if it's like someplace where there's a possibility of a fight, then yes, you would add encounters. So same deal, you can just go to map, or I'm sorry, new map, and then you can have a submap within that map. So like in my game, I have the world map, and then within that map, you have all the regular maps. And if you misplace something, you can just drag it in there. Now map 2 is a submap of map 1, and map 3 is a submap of map 2. If you don't like it, like let's say map 3 isn't a submap map 2, you made a mistake. Drag it, and there. Now you have 2 submaps. Now both of these should just be regular maps. Just drag it to the test game. There you go. So you don't need to delete and lose all your progress. So we're going to delete that. And delete that. We don't need this. Alright. So that is a general overview of RPG Maker XP. There is a lot of stuff in here that you can use. A lot of stuff that you could play with and experiment with. You just need to, understand the layers. Like, if there's a little bit of white in the tile sets, then that means it does not belong in layer 1. That is number 1. So, like, this tree clearly has a lot of white in it. But this one is not so obvious, this log formation. This one is, you still see white. This one is, you still white. But this one's like, it might have white. But, like, when you actually put it, see all that white that happens, and I'm still in the paint tool. So just be aware of what the layers are, and then you can make your beautiful maps in RPG Maker. Mess around with the database if you want. Like I said, the default is actually done well. I wouldn't mess with it too much. Other than that, the next time I do this, I think I will start to tackle tile sets and show you how to actually make a tile in a map. So that's the end of the stream. Thank you for if you showed up, and I will upload this to YouTube and update the Discord. Thank you very much, and have a good day or night wherever you are in the world.